Red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light, red light.
Folks, lads and lasses, grab yourself a pint, pull up a chair, because we are here for another episode of the Soul Sessions. I am your host, Soul, but with me today, this man is very much an essence. The essence of Dubai, some may say. Shaheen, my friend, welcome to the Soul Sessions.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope to put some Dubai soul, some Middle Eastern soul into this podcast. Thank you so much once again for having me.
Well, I am honored and pleasured, my friend. But obviously, Shaheen, with every guest I've done, and I will do it to the end of time, every guest has a story and every story has a beginning. Shaheen, how did your story begin as a wrestling fan?
I would say it pretty much started as a kid. My father and I were in the States at some point in Times Square. I vividly remember just seeing the WWE store. I think it was the WWF store at the time. And then it was just random people jumping off ladders into chairs. I believe that was around the 1999-2001 era of the Attitude Era of WWF at the time. Then I had to go back to the place we stayed, and I was begging, looking for the channel that would feature all those crazy stuntmen doing all the moves. And luckily for me, I came across the channel that was airing WWF at the time. So got into the Hardy Boys, Team Extreme, a lot of early Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio kind of stuff growing up. Mm-hmm. And then coming back to Dubai, I wasn't sure as a kid how I would get access to those channels, especially with the broadcast being so different over here. So I also vividly remember another story of being in the supermarket with my mom, and I would always drag her to the magazine section just so I could find the latest WWF publications or the latest WWE publications. And I think I still do have some of those copies. Was like just for me to keep up to date with a lot of the stories, for me to feel like, oh wow, like these people actually exist. Like the United States, which was a 19-hour flight, and we're here in the Middle East, and I'm seeing all these pictures of these wrestlers. They must be larger than life. So that's where it kind of stuck in my head.
Hey, mate, Shaheen, those magazines might be some rare valuables nowadays. So you might be sitting on a fortune, son. I'm just saying.
You never know.
I'm just saying, if I see you, in a golden jet or anything like that, I know you cashed in those magazines. So good play to you there. But also you mentioned, going over to America, Times Square, and just seeing the imagery of wrestling. And I think what's really fascinating is that with wrestling, and especially with the imagery of it, it can translate, language barriers or barriers that people might be having to viewing product. For you, Shaheen, what do you think it is about wrestling that it can really just grab you in that one moment, one precise moment?
I would definitely say the fact that it's something that displays athleticism in an awe-inspiring soap opera, perhaps. That is the most intriguing aspect of wrestling to me. Because I'm sure you've been to wrestling events, and it's different in person than it is on TV. Mm-hmm. That is where the ultimate conversion happens. Not the TV, it's in the live events. That's when people go, I actually love this shit. So I see it over here in Dubai in so many different instances where people dragging their cousins and dragging their friends, and it's always that one friend who survives, out of the group, and then they bring in a third person and a fourth person and a fifth person. It just grows and grows and grows to an extent like you see it like that. That's what happened with me growing up. I started watching because of my brother as well. So I was really big on the magazines and the video games, but he was the one who was really watching it on TV. So he kind of converted me into that effect, let's say, of wrestling.
No, absolutely indeed. And you mentioned some great names earlier, like the Hardys, Kurt Angle, and Rey Mysterio, and especially with Rey, we're seeing him going on, but he has mentioned that he might be wanting to hang up the boots and the mask. It might be the end of Rey Mysterio, and he is a legend for this business on what he's done.
Living legend.
In the Hall of Famer. He's transcended wrestling with the lucha style, one of the big pillars for Mexican wrestling as well, appearing on Mexican TVs and cartoons. And he has mentioned he wants to be in, a hair versus mask match with Dominic Mysterio, maybe even Santos Escobar. But for yourself, Shaheen, with a legend of caliber of Rey Mysterio, how would you like to see his career come to an end?
I mean, at the moment, you can say the best way for it to come full circle is with his own son. And I'm sure that's how he would feel about it as well. We can reminisce about the glory days and having him, go against his arch rivals or just for the sake of nostalgia. But I think for it to be a super successful and super emotional moment, it has to be more of a passing to the torch to his own son. Although the styles are very much, strikingly different, it just means a lot for Ray to be in that ring with his own son, passing the torch over.
Very true indeed. And we've seen it, especially with the lucha style. There is that family element to it. We've seen with people like Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. passing on titles and masks. Do you think, Shaheen, that Dominic Mysterio should take up Rey Mysterio's mask?
Not with his wrestling style. I think Rey Mysterio and the mask really embodies the culture of Lucha Libre, not just his name, not just his, let's say, the pedigree of his family, but it was more about him being the first lucha wrestler to actually break through. When he got to WCW and then consequently got called up to SmackDown to have his first match with Chavo, and then just grow to the Rey Mysterio we know today, especially with like the indie matches. Who would have thought that we would get to see Rey Mysterio having matches against Ricochet and Will Ospreay and Lucha Underground matches, and those matches to me helped me understand Ray much more than his run with WWE.
Wow, hey, fair play indeed. And you mentioned somebody there as well, Ricochet. I know you met Ricochet as well, and I really enjoy his style. But I want to get your thoughts on, obviously, Ricochet is now, no longer with the WWE. He held the WWE Speed Championship. He dropped it to Andrade. Was in a wee bit of a segment with Braun Breaker and then departing from the company. And a lot of people have felt, he should have been more. He should have maybe been, world champion or had an opportunity with the Universal at the time. I don't know if your thoughts, Shaheen, on Ricochet's WWE career.
So the time Ricochet started was pretty much the period where I really, really have been considering a career in wrestling. Mm-hmm. That was the 2017 to 18, I would say. NXT Black and Gold, with all the great names that we see today, like the Ciampas, the Garganos, the Keith Lees, the Chris Heroes, those people who came in and really elevated NXT. Like, with no disrespect to the early names, of course, you've got Pac, you've got Sami Zayn, you've got all those big names that helped build NXT. But for me, a really emotional a period that I really connect with is the period where this usher of talent came in, where you got Ricochet come in and Johnny Gargano from Evolve and the arrival of Adam Cole and all of those Andrades, and it's like it cultivated a super competitive environment, and to see Ricochet thrive in that was, I would say, definitely one of the moments that made me think, you know what? He's in his 30s. I've been watching this guy like on YouTube. I remember a skinny, scrawny dude with the hair. I've been watching his matches against Cesaro before he made it to WWE. I've been watching Ricochet's matches before Lucha Underground. So for him to transition to that phase of NXT, I thought, this guy's finally getting his flowers. He's finally getting the spotlight he deserves, and it's really, really pushing me and motivating me to thrive in my own kind of career, my own bubble, to pursue wrestling. So I really hold a dear, I would say, affinity to Ricochet's career.
Yeah, very true indeed. And obviously there was that amazing NXT North American inaugural championship match, which was the ladder match, which featured him, Adam Cole, Killian Dane.
Tell me about it.
Oh,
All the multi-man matches he had, like the matches with the NXT Worlds Collide matches, his matches with Pete Dunne, multi-man matches with Pete Dunne is just something else.
Truly a phenomenal man. And things in a way to work out is, but obviously, not the end all. Things could happen more for Ricochet. And I want to know for you, Shaheen, where would you like to see Ricochet maybe land up now he's a free agent?
It's hard to say, but it would be really cool to see him in New Japan once again.
Okay.
I'd want to see that version of Ricochet again.
That would be very good. Obviously, the Lucha Underground version of Ricochet, King Puma, very historical as well. And Lucha Underground, I wasn't a fan at the time when it was airing, but to go back and watch it, you felt a presence with the fans and with the setup and the storylines. What is it about Lucha Underground, Shaheen, that you think it really transcended and became such a hallmark for wrestling?
The gritty production, the athleticism that these wrestlers displayed. I would say all of these big names in the Mexican scene finally got a proper Western, I'd say, promotion that gets to showcase their talent to a Western audience. Because once again, like I go back to the point of Rey Mysterio, a lot of wrestlers prior to like AEW, prior to NXT, prior to that time, any masked wrestler, you'd immediately think of Rey Mysterio, unless you had access to CMLL or AAA and all those big promotions. And I was happy at the time to finally see Lucha Underground showcase these different talents from different backgrounds. You had Ricochet, you've got Swerve, I think. Yeah, Swerve was probably one of the masked men at the time. Forgot, was it
Killshot?
Yes. Yeah. You got Killshot, you got Io Sky was on the show. So those names popped up, and just to look back at those videos once again just also gives me that drive, also gives me that push to want to elevate my own kind of career and expand my own, let's say, horizons.
Absolutely, indeed. And that drive to do more with great shows and great companies is so passionate to see. And I know obviously you've attended a few shows in your time, and on one of them I want to talk about is obviously Crown Jewel. When I like Crown Jewel because it's on at a reasonable time. I don't have to stay up till 1 a.m. Thank you for that, WWE. That's always great to have. And I also see the spectacle of it, like the arenas that I see, and the whole skyline is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
Attending it in person, what is it like, and the atmosphere attending, a WWE show in Saudi?
Well, we were like this part of the world. Just a quick heads up, we never really got shows that often. Yeah, we would get the normal house shows. They would barely get promoted as much. They would barely get any marketing. You won't see them on the streets. You won't see any kind of flyers. There's no kind of, not even on TVs. They wouldn't promote it unless you dig deep into it. And sadly for us wrestling fans in this region, like even when given the opportunity, a lot of us haven't heard of it. Unless, as I mentioned, it's on different media channels, radio if you're lucky. And to finally have a huge show like that come to this side of the world where we get to relive a sense of escapism. We get to all unite with our love for wrestling and love for having this, especially in this part of the world, regardless of what, negative feedback there's been or negative ideas or whatever, PR is against us. Perhaps I would say we're all just wrestling fans. You can't just, wrestling is for everyone. You can't really just say like WWE can't go there because 1 of 3. Like a government is something, and then the people is something. The people are something else. So you can't mix those two together. I can't hate on the states because Donald Trump is a douchebag. Like you can't say that. So it just doesn't make sense. So just to go back on the point of Crown Jewel, that spectacle was one of the most amazing setups I've ever seen in my life. You had all the screens and the pyros and the fans, man. Let me talk about the fans and the energy they brought to the arena was on a different level. I've been to shows, I've been to NXT takeovers. It wasn't that wild. So you say like there's the love, the passion is there.
Hey, absolutely. And that passion is key as well. There may be tribalism with wrestling, you know, my company's better than your company, but at the end of the day, we all like what that one thing is, and it is wrestling. And the Crown Jewel shows are phenomenal as well. I wonder from yourself, Shaheen, is there a particular memory or match from all of like the Saudi shows that really sticks in your mind as that was just spectacular?
So, not to take away from anyone, not to take away from any of the matches, I would say three matches that really stood out in all the Saudi shows that I've been to. One, Roman versus Logan Paul. That was, to me, look, I came in with zero expectations. Okay, that was the first time to watch Logan Paul in action for me, like a full proper match. Phew, hats off, freaking phenomenal. That guy moves like an athlete. Okay, and the fact that they had a full blown main event that got the crowd behind them from A to Z while displaying that this influencer is capable of wrestling. That's shows the amount of dedication that Logan has. So that was match number one. And I would say one of the matches was also Lita versus Becky Lynch.
Oh,
That match, listen, on another level because the fans were freaking behind that. I was on that show. Like, you can ask anyone who was on that show. You had big names. You had Brock Lesnar. You had Roman. You had the Elimination Chamber matches. The pop that these women got in a country like Saudi Arabia, it got me freaking goosebumps. The standing ovation after the match, the crowd losing their minds over like the false finishes and all of that was phenomenal. And to have two women do that in Saudi Arabia, hats off. Match number three goes without saying, any Mansoor match. The reason I say that is because I've always wanted someone who I could identify with. Coming on this side of the world, you go in, you watch TV, there's always misrepresentation. There's always this idea of, he's either a terrorist or, he's illiterate or he's a rich Arab sheikh, but you have Mansoor who everyone could connect to as a fun guy, as a freaking wrestler who made it out of Oakland all the way to WWE. Dose of inspiration for me. I want to be that guy. I want to be where he is today. I want to do what he's doing right now. So anytime I got to see Mansoor live in front of me, and then to have the opportunity to speak to him right after, and just have that moment, I knew I just know my time's gonna come really soon, and to have that friendship with Mansoor, I would say is any kind of any match that I witnessed in Saudi Arabia.
hey, very deep about Mansoor. He's an absolute funny guy, great wrestler, even quite a model.
Yeah, but he sucks. Let me just say this: he sucks in video games. Yeah, not the best.
Whoa, whoa.
Not the best. He could beat me in the ring, but he could definitely not beat me when it comes to any video game. So I'm calling you out, Mansoor. So whenever you're ready, just hook me up, give me a call. I'll be able to answer, and let's play again. Rematch. You know what game I'm talking about. Let's make it happen. Live stream it for all I care to show your fans that you suck, bro.
Oh no, Shaheen, we've had people on this show challenge for matches, challenge for belts, but not a video game match challenge. I mean, that's the first year, it's a history record. I'll take it. But
boy.
Oh no, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there indeed. But obviously, Shaheen, you know, once a fan is always a fan, but you would take one step further and actually get into the squared circle. And I'm very fascinated about, obviously, with Dubai. What was it like for training there? Was it, quite accessible, or was it a lot of maybe online learning?
So to begin with, I would say I came in around the time where there wasn't really a coach. Unfortunately, I had this hunger where I still have it to this day. I seek the feedback without the pushback. I had that hunger in me. I didn't want to just do random stuff. I didn't just want to learn with anybody. I wanted to learn in an environment where I could get proper feedback. That's gonna push me to do even more. Give me your honesty. Tell me I suck for all I care because I want to be better. I want to prove you wrong. I want someone to guide me. That's what really gave me the itch. Whenever I had the opportunity to fly out to the UK and wherever I would go, I would always seek the best wrestling school. I would always seek the best coaches. I wanted to go uh, and just reassure myself that, you know what, I want to put myself in an environment where my mindset is being tested, my confidence is being tested, my work ethic is being tested, my discipline is being tested. But at the end of the day, I bet on myself. Even when the chips feel stacked against me, I'm gonna go in and just give it a go. So what? What's the worst that can happen? So I was always in that hungry mindset where I wanted to expose myself to mistakes. I want to expose myself to learn from the best. I want to expose myself to be in a competitive environment.
Of course, Shaheen. You know, when you're hungry for knowledge, you feed on it, and then when you're full, you let it digest, and then you're all good to go. But that hunger comes back, and you continue to hunger for the knowledge. That's what you got to do, especially with any business or any passion that you love. Now, of course, we've mentioned obviously Dubai, and also we have Wrestlefest, and I've talked about it before. For yourself, Shaheen, to see what Wrestlefest is doing, with all the great people they're bringing in, and the presence they're building within the wrestling world, what does that mean to you?
Uh, WrestleFest, I'd say, is probably my biggest passion project. Not my, but our passion project.
Mhm.
So the reason it started was because I had that hunger, I had that itch. I had just come out of my shoulder surgery. We used to run academy shows at the time together with Wrestling ME, which was the wrestling school, but we never really had spectacles like WrestleFest, proper, like venues and ticketing systems and like I'd say a platform where people can just come together, enjoy the spectacle and the beauty of wrestling over here in Dubai. So shortly after that surgery, I was really, really hungry. And I had set my mind to, just reassure myself that I am here to build dreams. I'm here to bring dreamers together. We want to create FOMO around WrestleFest DXB. We're not here to make money out of it. We're not here to, make money out of tickets or anything. We want to gain prominence. We want to better ourselves. We want to improve. And at the same time, we want to create a wrestling community, an active, vibrant wrestling community. And this is where I really like to thank Mark Andrews to begin with, because I know he's been in the same situation of fucking create. Sorry, is it okay to swear?
Yeah, absolutely fine, mate.
Okay.
So Scottish, we're all fine.
Okay. So creating a fucking scene from nothing. He understands the concept of like a subculture. And that's where, creativity kicks in. That's where community kicks in. That's where talent kicks in. We've got people who are, photographers. We've got people who are videographers. We've got people who are in bands. We've got people who are into that kind of punk rock underground scene in Dubai, when it's not just what you see on TV, where it's just the fancy buildings or the rich, suburbs or the fancy malls and stuff. I mean, that's all great to go and watch and come and visit and see that, but I want you to experience something different. I want people to come in and experience the underground. And that's where it comes full circle, because I do remember going to a show to Germany, and in the merch stand after the show, I was stood there and this guy came up to me and said, "How was your match with Francesco Akira?" And I'm like, "What? Who are you? Like, pleasure meeting you, my friend." And he goes, "I was supposed to come in for that match, but I'm based in Germany, and unfortunately I had to fly out the day before, and I had just found out about it." And it's like, wow, that's wrestling world is just so small, and to have someone, a fan from Germany, tell me that was, woo, hats off. Like, Thank you. You're making me realize that we're serving wrestling fans. We're serving hungry people who just want to come in and enjoy wrestling.
Absolutely, mate. You are serving up a platter, and people are very hungry to get a hold of that and have a bit of old nourishment. Now, obviously, with WrestleFest, people have came over. You mentioned obviously Mark Andrews as well, and I've had Mark on, and he's an exceptional talent, especially what he's done for the Welsh wrestling scene as well. True pillar. But obviously, someone else you've had on is former ICW Zero G champion and guest of the show, Jason Reed. Jason is a phenomenal individual when I've seen him wrestle in person here in Scotland. I wonder from yourself, Shaheen, what was it like having Jason and facing him in the ring?
Jason was really one of the first, I'd say, international wrestlers that I got to step into the ring with. And to have someone with that ICW experience, with TV experience, with WWE Network experience, come in and exchange, I would say, that knowledge with us and help us grow and support us as a young and coming wrestling scene is something that resonates with me. Like, although he could be a bit of a douche sometimes, I really appreciate his help every now and then. And to have him move over to Dubai, I think he moved in last month to pursue a new job and everything, is only reassuring for us, and like adds a nice bit of sizzle to the active roster that we have at the moment.
Hey, absolutely indeed, and it is a fun roster as well. And obviously, one person I've had on is Dubai's first homegrown female talent, Roxy. Roxy really put a sun to your shine. Really celebrated your praise and what you've done, not only for her but for wrestling as a worldwide culture as well. When you hear that sort of praise from Roxy, and especially here in Scotland as well, like Ross Hunter and Daisy Jenkins singing your praises, how does that feel to know that you really left such a positive impact on the worldwide scene of wrestling?
It never really hits now that you mention it. It's just that whenever someone mentions that, you do realize it's a two-way street. They put in the work. They ended up here because they put in the work, not because I provided the platform, because it's two ways. Whoever praises you also deserves the praise. Daisy, Daisy. The other day I was at the what was it called? FWP, was it the school before the rebrand?
Yes.
I went into the dojo and she was the only female there. And it was hard hitting, proper, probably better than half of the guys there. Sorry, dudes. But it's like she put up with a lot of that. And the fact that she was the only chick at the time and she keeps going and helps, build that scene with a bunch of guys. Daisy, you put in the work. Same thing with Roxy. Whenever she praises me, I tend to tell her, listen, you put in the work. You probably put in 10 times the amount of work that I put, because you show up to a training school full of guys, you don't get that support over like different schools. They probably want to push you out. They probably don't want to, they belittle you maybe as a woman or because you're young or naive or whatever it is. But man, she's a tough cookie. She comes in and she wants to outperform everyone. She wants to come in and do better than all the guys. So let me tell you something, man. It's when it comes to Daisy and Roxy, they work on things that people can never take away from them. It's the mindset and it's the confidence.
Indeed, Shaheen, indeed. And honestly, I'll say myself, so I just want to thank you for what you've done for the world of wrestling, because I think you have really left such a positive impact on it with what you've built and what you're acting and how everything you're doing. And also being a guest of the show as well. I really appreciate you coming on my platform. It's always a great thing to see as well. But
thank
obviously,
you. And I also want to thank also everyone who reached out to me and said that, especially in this part of the world, that I'm the reason they started their journey, whether they're from Saudi or whether they're from the UAE, or people come in and tell me, I want a job in Dubai and I want to move there because I want to train, I want to wrestle, I want to do this. It just reminds me of, man, it just takes me back to 5 years ago when I was super hungry and I wanted a place to train. And the fact that now I look back at it and say, like, I'm so proud of our collective efforts in creating that over here, I would like to thank those same people for giving me that dose of inspiration to continue what I do, because it's not easy. I do think about quitting. I do think about leaving it all, just, but there's always these people that come in and say, I want to do this because of you. Or it's really finally great to see an Arab wrestler in the independent scene, or something along the lines of, I want to move in, or I want to train, I want to do this. Any sort of push from anyone who wants to become a wrestler who's passionate about it only gives me the confidence to keep going.
Absolutely. When the kindness is passed forward, it trickles down and it always continues, because one act of kindness continues the flow, Shaheen. And it is truly amazing. Obviously, we mentioned Scotland as well with, formerly FBWA, now PWR. You did appear, obviously, in the crossover show in New Wave Academy a while back. I want to know, how did you really get introduced to the Scottish scene, and how did that opportunity come to you in the first place?
I'd say, looking back, it was one of the times where Jason was on holiday in Dubai, if I remember correctly. That was around the time where he really got to find out about our academy and come in and give us training sessions and seminars, which eventually, led to him being on the DXB shows and so on and so forth. And because I had faced him on that show, I was actually doing a stopover in the UK to do a show in Canada. And it was around the same weekend where the FPWA show happened. So that's when I, messaged Jason and asked him, like, there's an opportunity, would be great. And he introduced me to Andy Wild, who's a phenomenal wrestler, let me just say. And then, ended up getting the opportunity to be on the show, which I'm super thankful about. There's always something different about performing in front of a drunk Scottish crowd. I never thought in my life I'd experience that, but that's just, poof, off my bucket list. So that's something.
Well, what a fun bunch. I mean, obviously with Clash the Castle Scotland, when you're chanting wanker at Chad Gable for 20 minutes.
I mean, okay, wanker, but then you have Jason Reed, and if you remember, like, just tell him this and ask him about the first chant he got over here in Dubai. The fans chanted bloody wanker at his face in Dubai, of all places.
See, Scottish charm, it translates worldwide.
I know. There's something about it, man.
We're truly a fun bunch. But obviously, Shane, you mentioned, obviously, traveling and, going to overseas. You mentioned Germany, Canada, and Scotland as well. That journey to travel and push yourself to go to other countries, I want to know, was there any kind of maybe culture shock with how wrestling fans act in other countries that maybe surprised you? Like how a Scottish wrestling crowd reacted, or a Canadian, or even a Germany?
So my experience was pretty much, it was fun to navigate around those different crowds, especially with the countries you mentioned, like with Germany, and then you got the UK and Canada. But then again, they all drink, so it's pretty much the same. But the only fear that I get, and I remember Mustafa Ali mentioning this in one of his interviews, is that it might be a bit of a touchy subject. I'm Arab. You expect getting booed, especially in countries where it's a bit. But then, man, that's the beauty of wrestling. You go out there, you give off that positive energy, and they chant for you and they cheer for you. And it doesn't matter where you're from, where you come, what you believe in, or your background, whatever it is, you're still a wrestler, and they respect you. So that's one thing that I really loved about all the shows and all the promotions that I performed at, is that the fact that they respect the people in the ring. So far, I've never gotten any kind of confrontation about, my background or anything, any of that sort. But then if you ask me specifically to nitpick about the different crowds, or my favorite crowds, or how I was able to navigate around them, I would say it's always a challenge performing in front of, I did Malaysia one weekend, and then I did the UK the weekend after. It was something. Like, Malaysia gets the culture, they understand the Arab culture. And there's this common word that we use a lot in Arabic language, and it's habibi. I'm sure you've heard it before. Habibi is an Arabic word that actually means, my dear, or my darling, or my beloved. And I'm sure they didn't mean it in a racist way or in any kind of, derogatory sense. But I remember finishing up the match, and I stayed in the ring, and I got a standing ovation, and the crowd was chanting Habibi at me. And I thought to myself, at the moment, I was like, maybe I should turn this to a shirt, and then, so I might actually do some Habibi shirts for Malaysia, if in case you're watching. So then moving from that to the UK, where it's a different crowd who's probably never heard of you before, never seen you. There's this challenge again of navigating. You always reintroduce yourself. You're always trying, different moves and different techniques and different ways where you just want to be seen. You want to be understood, especially with, such a fast-paced environment like wrestling. It's quite the challenge.
It's a fair point indeed, Shaheen, and absolutely. And you obviously mentioning the UK, those fans there. We have some great promotions here. Obviously, there's PWR, as you mentioned, No Mercy Wrestling, Riot Cabaret, Rev Pro. But one I have to talk about with yourself is obviously Progress Wrestling, because I know Progress and Wrestlefest DXB put on a show together, Sons and Daughters of the Desert. I gotta know, how did that whole show and opportunity come about?
I'd say it came about after I had my trilogy with Dan Maloney, who was the Progress Tag Champion at the time, and then I had to. So it was around the summer of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I got the opportunity to fly out to the UK and do some training, and it was around the same weekend where there was a Progress show, and I remember going in and running into the owners. Like, there was no intent, but I introduced myself with the intent of, wrestler's etiquette. You just go there, you say hi, introduce yourself, ask, offer help, obviously, like, ask for future opportunities on shows, yada yada. And in return, I got something bigger than what I had expected. I just wanted the match, in Progress, if I'm being honest. And then it turned to a whole fucking show in Dubai. So conversation started there. It was on a show. They were interested in the wrestling scene. I was interested in collaborating with them as well. So it was a beautiful fusion of, highlighting the Progress wrestlers here to our Dubai audience, and highlighting the homegrown wrestlers of Dubai to the Progress audience, which got aired on their on-demand network and on their WWE network and on their YouTube channels. So it was a really good, I would say, opportunity to get a sense of exposure, especially to the British wrestling scene.
Okay, absolutely indeed, and a phenomenal show all around. And I know you would face obviously Tate Mayfair, who's been on this show before. Tate's a funny guy. He does his ways. He has his methods to get the win. Sneaky sometimes, but methods
Sometimes,
nonetheless. Yeah.
all the time. I still, hands down, my worst match in my career. So sorry, Tate.
Well, I mean, nonetheless, an experience. Nonetheless, obviously, with the Dubai World Wrestling Championship on the line for that match. And don't get me wrong, I love the belt. Honestly, if I could, I would love a replica for my shelf. It'd be a very nice collection.
Maybe you could ask Tate to print you one of those. I'm sure the moment he won the belt, he probably got one of those, what do you call them, where they slap in something to create some knockoffs. He has a lot of those. I've seen his shirts, I've seen his shoes, I've seen his fake bracelets. So he's got you covered.
I'm sure he does as well. But funny thing enough, obviously Tate does have the TNT Extreme World Championship right now. you put your belt on the line against him. Does it seem only fair that maybe Tate comes back to Dubai and puts that belt on the line against you?
Maybe vice versa. Why not me going to the UK? He going over there instead, because you've seen the work he's done. Yeah, a bit debatable with all the AEW situation going on at the moment with Tate. Good job, by the way. I would love to face Tate in his hometown, embarrass him, take the TNT title away from him, just like he did with the Dubai World Championship. Bring it back home and show these guys that karma's a bitch, Tate.
Ooh, well, a wee old rivalry. I do like to see that indeed. But something I must mention as well, Shaheen, you have done quite some historic things because you are, well, the first Arab wrestler to compete for New Japan Pro Wrestling and obviously attending the New Japan Dojo as well. I gotta know, my friend, how did that whole opportunity to go and experience the New Japan style, the dojo, how did all of that journey come about for you?
So there was this level of interest to begin with, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, that there was always this hunger of me wanting to be, in a competitive environment. I always wanted to challenge myself, wanted to be amongst people who were hungry and we were all pushing towards the same goal. So I remember applying a really long time back, and thanks to the support of one of my mentors who helped me out with the applications, and helped me out with the accommodation situation and everything. Not sure if I can mention his name over here, but fantastic guy. Absolutely, my wrestling dad, I would say. I just gotta put this out there. And then the whole situation came about. I got the opportunity to perform at the dojo. Obviously, the best 3 months of my life. Challenging, yes. Doubtful, hell no. I was put in a situation where I had my secure job for 5 years and then had this opportunity for just 3-4 months to go over to the dojo, just to train for an opportunity. And I was put in front of a very, very tough situation. I was at a crossroads, and they had told me, the job, my previous employers had told me, you can go there if you quit. That was the answer. And guess what happened? Left my job, pursued it, went out there to the United States, learned from the best coaches, be in an environment of fucking superstars. These guys, the amount of commitment they we had people who come in, drove in 4 or 5 hours to come to the dojo every day. We had people who had chemotherapy sessions. We had people who had to train in 2 different schools because they didn't want to disappoint the other coaches. People with 3-4 jobs. All of us had that hunger. All of us had that freaking determination of wanting to learn, wanting to be in that spotlight. So guess who got chosen to go against the coach? That was the guy who quit his job. It was the guy who got to quit his job, fly out 19 hours across the globe just for an opportunity. And I got that opportunity, and I got to showcase that in front of all my peers, in front of the bookers at New Japan, in front of my coach, who I'm super, super grateful to for the incredible opportunity. And I would say that's the first and not the last time I grace a New Japan ring.
Wow. I mean, seeing you may be the essence of Dubai, but I also think you're the essence of dedication, my friend. I mean, wow. Truly, truly
You
phenomenal.
feel free to ask, my friend. I can walk you through the tough times where I had to coach on Zoom because I wanted to make ends meet while I was in the States. It's not easy. Rent's due. You know, you gotta pay for transport. I had to get my own groceries. I didn't have any savings at the time. They didn't even give me my gratuity, so it was tough. Let me tell you, it was tough. And the only way for myself to sustain was to teach online, to do random jobs online and get paid for it. And then luckily enough, at the time, I remember this was last summer when I had quit my job to pursue the New Japan Dojo. There was this, man, let me tell you, there was this hunger in me. And I'm sure that anything I did I'd get tenfold in return.
Mm-hmm.
I would get tenfold in return, whether it was in the form of an opportunity, whether it was in the form of future opportunities, be it wrestling or a different job. Those were some tough times that I could write a book about.
Wow, I mean, you are very dedicated and to your craft to do all that, go through some hard times, like old Dusty Rhodes says, the hard times, but you made good times out of it. You got experience, you got recognition. You know, first I wrestled beat for New Japan Pro Wrestling. That is extortion, and that's amazing, man, to have that a part of your accolades as well. I do want to know as well, Shaheen, obviously, with learning under the New Japan Dojo and the style as well, what are some lessons from that time in the dojo that you still hold on to this very day?
Trust your fucking gut. That's all I took away with me.
Right. Fair play indeed, my friend. Fair play indeed. Now, obviously,
With discipline and dedication.
discipline, dedication builds great men. Absolutely. Obviously, you can't mention New Japan Pro Wrestling right now without the ongoing AEW partnership, because we have Forbidden Door coming up in a few days at the time we are recording. I want to know, Shaheen, your thoughts on Forbidden Door, and I must admit, you must be excited for it, right?
Oh, man, anything with a match card stacked like that, give it to me. I'm gonna stay up the whole night just to watch Will Ospreay in action, to watch the Mercedes match, to watch these different kind of dream matches that everyone's been, dreaming about over the past couple of years.
Right. Fair deed, indeed. It's truly amazing. Obviously, we have John Moxley. He is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion right now, going against Tetsuya Naito for the belt. You know, he's going to defend it against the man he took it against. I want to know your thoughts on seeing John Moxley represent, New Japan Pro Wrestling with their top prize.
I mean, Moxley's always been one of my, I would say, people who obviously represent the independence in a way where it's like that guy fucking made it. Just Moxley from Ohio in jeans and a shirt, just makes it to that ring, got the opportunity to showcase his his craft in the WWE, and then he got to do it in New Japan, AEW. It's something else. So just to have Moxley in this match alone, I feel is going to offer Moxley a huge spot, just to show that he freaking deserves to be there.
Yeah, very true indeed. And so many other matches on the card that are truly exciting for myself. But what I do want to touch upon is the AEW side. Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship. Now look, I'm from the UK. Would I like to see Ospreay win it and main event All In with the belt? Of course I would. But then there's Swerve Strickland, the mogul, the guy. He's amazing. I want to see him hold the belt longer. But Shaheen, who do you think should walk out Forbidden Door still, the new AEW World Champion?
I'd love to see, as you mentioned, I'd love to see Ospreay do it in his hometown. As big of a moment as it is in Forbidden Door, but I still think it should happen in the UK. Just imagine the immense roar from the crowd. I'd take that over Will Ospreay winning at this event any day.
Some may say that's controversial. Some may say that's the right opinion. But come Sunday, I'm sure we'll know which is the right answer. But of course, we can't mention New Japan Pro Wrestling without the amazing, exceptional talent there. We mentioned Tetsuya Naito, Minoru Suzuki, so many others are part of this whole culture of New Japan Pro Wrestling. For yourself, Shaheen, let's say you get an opportunity to wrestle at Wrestle Kingdom, singles match. Who from New Japan Pro Wrestling would you like to face on their grandest stage?
You just mentioned his name.
Oh, did I? Ooh, which one? I mentioned a few, and I'm bad with memories.
I would love for an opportunity in the ring with Will Ospreay. I would. Oof, that. Let me just say, when I had first started training in the UK, this was back in 17, 18, probably. We'll just go back. I started in 2019, ended 2019, yeah. And it was a few months before COVID, and I remember staying at my friend's place. Huge shout out to you, Fayez. Thank you for giving me the couch. I was training at the London School of Lucha Libre, yeah. So that was the same place where Will Ospreay came out of. He trained there under phenomenal Greg Burridge, fantastic trainer. Really grateful that I got to learn from him in that specific style, Lucha Libre, have some fantastic talent come out of his own wrestling school, like Will Ospreay and Cara Noir and Nina Samuels and Aaliyah and all these names that you find like in the UK scene at the moment. Murdoch as well. All these fantastic names, they were trained with Greg, by Greg. And I would say it was the beginning of the Will Ospreay rise. So obviously, as a student in that school, you look up to that, the success story of this guy had trained in this school with this trainer, follow his footsteps, you'll achieve your dreams kind of thing. So to me, Will Ospreay has always been that staple. Mm-hmm. He wrestled in different countries. He's fantastic, crazy athletic. I was also lucky enough to have worked backstage in one of the shows and help out and introduce myself. And the fact that he remembered that I came to one of his seminars was also a talking point for me, where it's like, how do you do it? I wrestled in 12, 13 different countries, but I feel like I'm not progressing as I should. And he gave me the best piece of advice over there. So on a personal level, I want Will Ospreay. I would do unimaginable things to get that big match with Will Ospreay on the biggest New Japan stage of them all.
The Cerebral Assassin versus the Essence of Dubai. I can see it right now, main event and posters from 9 yards. Yeah, Shaheen, that would be something special indeed, my friend. But obviously, it's just so special to see right now with what wrestling is at the moment. It's so popular and so loved, with WWE doing, the WrestleMania this year, having such a high attendance record, viewing records, merch sales and everything. Do you think right now, Shane, with the 2020 period and onward, we might be in the prime of wrestling, like this new golden age?
No doubt. No freaking doubt. You could see the growth of the path that WWE is taking with all the merges and the acquisitions and the partnerships. It's headed in the right direction. The event production went up by probably tenfold. You could see the wrestlers coming in are so freaking hungry to showcase their skills to a hungrier audience. You got the partnerships with UFC, you've got the partnerships with the events, the stadiums, the venues, the countries, and it's all just coming together block by block. And finally, to have that being top with the Netflix thing next year, it's gonna be freaking mainstream. So if you want to talk about the golden age, I think it's too naive of you to live back, and it's time to look forward. Because who would have thought 5 years ago that WWE would be on Netflix. If you, that's global domination, if you know what I mean.
Running the world, indeed. And that whole eyes on the product and everything from millions and millions of subscribers is going to be absolutely insane. And we've seen like SummerSlam's going to be 2 nights now, like with WrestleMania's 2 nights. It's insane. But I want to know from yourself, Shane, if you could maybe see other pay-per-views that or PLEs that WWE do become 2-night events, which ones would you like to see and why?
None of them, because the time difference over here is just killer. So I've done this for the last, I'd say, 20, 15 years of my life, where I get to wake up at 3 a.m. just to watch a WWE pay-per-view. So I can't do that 2 back-to-back days. I think my sick leaves are going to have to expire after that. So just keep it as is, please.
we love more, but not more that our sleep schedule and our annual leaves all taken up.
Yes,
I want a vacation. I want a day off from everything. I don't have to take single days just because the watch us. It's the pains of success.
It's great though. Don't get me wrong. It's great. Seeing this is fantastic. Like Mania at the beginning, when they first announced the 2-night show, was a bit iffy for me to begin with. I thought about selfish reasons, my sleep schedule, all of that, but hey, it all worked out for them. It's great to get all the talent in. It's great to get, crazy amounts of money, make a lot of money out of 2-night WrestleManias. And actually, I do remember, like, one of the most memorable Manias I've had was last year's WrestleMania. Was around the same time I've done the Cardiff show with Attack and the other promotions. So being in that bar, trust me, with all the different wrestlers, just watching WrestleMania, for me, was a whole new different experience. I'm a boy from the desert, so you can imagine just being in that lively environment, amongst all these wrestlers, watching WrestleMania. Also for them to be proud of freaking Pete Dunne, who made it out of the UK indie scenes, and there was this sense of camaraderie. Everyone was so fucking proud to see him on TV, and also, that was like, yeah, hell yeah, kind of moment for me.
Our boys made it, and that's what we like to see. And that fun environment, I can't imagine that. And that must have been an absolute banging experience. Seeing it with wrestlers as well, that's like the golden ticket.
I know I'm Arab, but as Mark Andrews put it, he gave me an honorary British passport. So I'm kind of like British by
proxy. By proxy.
Mark Andrews. So
well, hey, fair dues, and obviously Mark's part of Subculture with Flash Morgan Webster, and I want to know, they're quite a hell of a tag team, exceptional, I would say. But let's say, Shaheen, you needed to find a tag team partner, anyone, to face Subculture. Who would you like as your tag partner?
It happens here in Dubai.
Yeah.
I got my backup, my boy, the Chopkeeper, Fayez. He's another boy from Dubai, was there on the Progress show, killing it on the indie scene. He's done shows in Qatar, he's done shows in the UK. Very different style than mine, a lot bigger, kind of like powerhouse style. I think we mesh really well as a tag team. So if that Subculture match were to happen, I've got Fayez as backup.
He's got the backup, and maybe Subculture might face a bit of wrath. But I mean, your guest of the show, I'll holding no bias. I'm holding no bias. Everyone, I hope, wins and success and has a good old time. But obviously, Shaheen, with WrestleMania, there's been rumblings that it might maybe go international. We had the London mayor, he put out a bid of saying, like, I want to bring WrestleMania to the UK. Triple H tweeted, let's talk. But I want to know from yourself, Shaheen, what would it mean for you if WrestleMania, the first international one, was held in Dubai?
I think that's a bit of a stretch. I'd say the UK is very much more of a plausible location for that to happen. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna be one of the first people to fly out to watch that, especially with the place being, one of the only like first places I trained, and a lot of, the scene. I'm kind of familiar with it. But if it were to happen here in Dubai, can you imagine? And we've got a purpose-built stadium down here, the Coca-Cola Arena, and it's, let me tell you, it's something else. So perhaps, maybe, you never know, a decade maybe from now, 5 years from now, hell, just give me a Dubai crown jewel. I'll be happy with that.
Well, I mean, if WrestleMania goes to Dubai, I might even fly out myself because I would love to experience that. That would be phenomenal. Now, obviously, earlier in our wee little discussion, you mentioned Mansoor, and I know you faced him, obviously, this year, I believe it was as well, that you faced Mansoor. Exceptional guy. I want to know, Shaheen, obviously, you idolized him so much, and you were saying that it was nice to have somebody that you could look up to that was, a representation of yourself in the mirror. To get that moment from idolizing to facing off with him in the ring, was it really like a completion of a journey for you?
Not really. I'd say it's more of a milestone than a completion. I think he mentioned that it was only one first of three matches, so I don't know what the plan is there. But hey, man, just going back to your point, facing Mansoor, honestly, getting that praise from him, whether it's in front of our fans or, online, to me it did feel like a completion of a journey, as you mentioned, but it's a completion of one chapter of my journey. I feel like with all the culmination of getting an injury, of, finally creating Wrestlefest DXB together with everyone and creating that scene, and then bringing wrestlers from overseas, and then doing the partnership with Progress, and just have that momentum slowly build up, and then doing the New Japan Dojo and coming back and getting that kind of wrestling accreditation to our own school, because I had trained in the New Japan Dojo. I got that support from the sports authority here. So it felt like there were a lot of small, I see them as small milestones leading up to the big one with Mansoor. Was like, hell yeah, that was such a good first chapter of living up his Shaheen, because that's just me scratching the surface. There's a lot more to come. I'm doing shows in Asia. I'm gonna do, just wait for the announcement. I'm doing a show next weekend. Might not be able to announce it just yet. I'm doing finally main eventing in Canada after performing there for 2-3 shows. So it's getting up to that next level, and I can't wait to showcase. I can't wait to put myself out there. I can't wait to actually show the fans that we've got something special going on in the Middle East, and we can, go up to par with different wrestlers from different parts of the world.
Shaheen, I must say, I think the next chapter of the Essence of Dubai will be a skyrocketing chapter for what comes next. Obviously, I think the next chapter of the Essence of Dubai will be skyrocketing to the next levels, my friend. But Shaheen, we're coming to the end of our time here on the Soul Sessions, and I appreciate what you have told us, sharing your story and what you've built for Dubai Wrestling in particular, my friend. But to wrap it up, AEW is known for their forbidden door. They like to let their talent go around everywhere. Minus Will Ospreay, because I know you said him. What male, what tag team, and what female AEW wrestlers would you like to bring into Wrestlefest?
Tough question, my friend.
I try.
Boy, oh boy. What's the context? Let's get deep into the context.
Oh, deep into the context. Right. Well, let's say it's a single match against you, so you could pick your opponent. It's a single match for Roxy.
Okay.
And let's say tag teams, if you have any particular talent you would love to see face an AEW tag team, give them the platform.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Okay. Okay. Can I pick 2 for each category? It's being hard right now.
Go on. I'll be generous.
Okay. So male wrestler, I'm gonna have to go with drum roll. I'm gonna go with Brian Danielson.
Solid.
I have to. If you had given me that shot, I'm gonna fucking shoot it. So I need to face Brian Danielson. And then option 2, probably Pac. Bring him out of whatever detention he's in. I want to face Pac. I wanna face the guy who made NXT relevant. So give me that dude. For women, if it's Roxy, I'm gonna have to say UK's very own Jamie Hayter. Has to be her. And then you've got shit. You made that a bit hard for me now. It's between Mercedes Moné and someone who deserves the spotlight as well. And let me just say that's Alex freaking Windsor. Yep.
Yeah. Amen to that. And
then if you're making me choose tag teams, oh brother. I'm gonna just have to choose one, my friend. I'm gonna have to go with the fun one, so I'm gotta go with these guys. Yeah, just give me that.
Shaheen, great picks all around, and I think when the eventual AEW Cross Wrestlefest DXB show comes around, you know what? I will fly out for that, my friend, and I will be front row to see that celebratory and amazing moment happening for the world of professional wrestling. Well, Shaheen, the essence of Dubai, thank you, my friend, and a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, folks, if you loved what you heard of Shaheen and WrestleFest, I will include a link to his Instagram and the Instagram page of WrestleFest. Click them both. Follow his journey, follow the journey of WrestleFest, and just see the great things they're doing for the world of professional wrestling. True pleasure, my friend. Well, folks, finish up your drinks, put your chairs away. It has been another episode of the Soul Sessions. Thank you, everyone.